I'm Gisele Regatao. I am a professor in the journalism department. Well, actually, my title is associate professor. And I teach several courses here in mostly podcasting, journalistic and fiction podcasting, but also cultural reporting. That's kind of one of my expertises, arts and culture. So cultural reporting, criticism, but different courses also in journalism, feature writing, investigative journalism, media literacy, news writing, and all that. So I am a proud graduate of Baruch College. I did my master's here in business journalism. It's not a program we offer anymore because now CUNY has a separate school of graduate school of journalism. But when I moved here from Brazil, I had already studied journalism in college. I had just started my career in journalism. I worked at a newspaper, at a magazine in Brazil, and I moved here. And I'm like, what I'm going to do in New York? And I decided to pursue a master's in business journalism. And I loved it here. And I had a great experience, loved the program, stayed in touch with my professors. After I graduated, I started a career in public radio in the US. I worked at KCRW, public radio station in Los Angeles, and then WNYC, which is the NPR affiliate in New York. But I kept in touch with my professors. I would come here, be a guest speaker, kind of always had the relationship with them, and I always had it in my mind that if I wasn't working in a newsroom, I wanted to be a professor. And then a position came up and I applied and I got the job. So now I'm here. I have been here full-time for 6 years, and I continue to work as a journalist, as a reporter, producer, doing a lot of mostly audio work, radio, podcasts, but I do writing and other things as well. Yes, so I am Brazilian, and I moved here already as an adult. So, English is not my first language. I thought I knew English well when I moved here, but I realized I didn't. So it's definitely been, a struggle and a journey to kind of try to learn how to write in English, to, perfect my spoken English. And Baruch helped me a lot, and then when I started working in English, it really helped me a lot, kind of grow and perfect. I feel like my English is never going to be perfect, but I think out there are a lot of people in the US who are born somewhere else. So I think that we are very much part of the fabric of the country, and I think I bring other things to the table that I believe are as important. Of course, you can't make mistakes. In journalism, you have to be accurate. But of course, there is a whole editing process, and I work with editors. And I also have edited work from other people. So that's also possible. And I think because a lot of our students are first generation, or their parents are, I think they relate a lot to me, and they think they like having a professor who is an immigrant like themselves or like their parents. And it kind of shows them that, there are a lot of possibilities. Even if your English is not perfect, that you can have a successful career in media, in journalism, and as a professor. So I love journalism. One of the reasons why I love teaching so much is because I love journalism. I say to my students, it's the best career in the world. And I really feel that way. I feel I've been so lucky to be a journalist. The places I've been able to go, the places I've traveled to, the people I met, to be interviewing people and writing, for me are like two amazing privileges, and it's such an enjoyable thing for me to do. So I love it so much. And I also love and feel very strongly about the role of journalism in society, right? It's fundamental to keep democracy going, to keep government in check. So journalism has a key role in society and in democracy. So I feel very strongly about that. And that's why I enjoy teaching so much, because I enjoy discussing it with my students and reflecting about what we do and how to do it better. And I am training the journalists of the future. A lot of my former students are now working in newsrooms. So my career in the US has been a lot in audio and podcasts. So I love audio, I love to write as well, but audio I think is such a great medium. There's nothing as powerful as the human voice, in my opinion. So to be able to hear directly from people is an incredible thing. So most of my work has been journalistic, and I continue to do stories, reported stories. So some of the highlights lately in my career. Last year I went to Peru with another colleague here from Peru, and we reported 3 stories from there. It was my first time in Peru, and we did a story about avocado production and how avocado is changing Peru, and also did a story about a rapper who raps in Quechua, and about a female filmmaker in Lima who went to Cannes, the film festival. This year we went to Ecuador on doing other stories. I've been reporting a lot on Venezuelan migrants all over the world. We did a story in Quito, Ecuador. I did a story in Brazil about Venezuelan migrants, and also in New York. So I feel like those are some of the recent stories I've done. But also during my career, I produced 2 fiction podcast series that I really, really love. So even though I am a journalist, I also kind of started working in fiction, because audio is a great medium to create fiction content. And I also created a class here at Baruch where I teach students how to produce fiction for audio. And I think audio fiction is amazing, and I loved working on those 2 series. My latest fiction podcast series is called A Hit Dog Will Holler, and it's on Radiotopia Presents, which is a great podcast network. No, I always do. First of all, students are expected to read the newspaper every day, 30 minutes a day is what I recommend. And then we always discuss news stories in class, but we also often discuss the coverage. So how is a news organization covering something? How is a different organization covering something? We discuss social media a lot, what's happening on Twitter. During the war, there's a lot of misinformation on social media, so we talk about that. And usually I prepare my syllabus like before the beginning of the semester, but during the semester I'm constantly changing the syllabus based on what's happening in the world. So I'm always kind of updating it, and we are always talking about current events. There is no way not to talk about current events in a journalism class. I am very non-partisan in my classes, because as a journalist I never express my opinion on anything. So and my classes are not, about if you're pro or against something necessarily. We talk more about like what are issues that journalists are facing. If one story is biased, why is it biased? How do you know it's biased? So those are the kinds of discussions we have, and I respect, students with different points of view and different opinions. And as a journalist, as a reporter, you don't really express our opinion when you're doing your reporting. So we talk a lot about that too. Well, I try to keep myself current as much as possible, so I still continue to work as a journalist. I am on social media myself, so I'm, constantly interacting with other people on social media and looking at like best practices. But I also ask my students a lot for what they are reading, where they get their information from. Often in my class, I might use examples based on what students told me they read or they like. So my classes are not classes where I lecture and students listen. They're very much like conversations. They are participation classes, but I also feel everybody's there to learn and everybody there is there to teach. So it's very much a discussion-based class. So what I bring to the table is just maybe a little bit more experience than my students, but I don't see myself as an authority in any way in terms of they can teach me too, and it's more like a collaboration and as a discussion. So I feel like that's my approach, is just to make it very inclusive, democratic. Sometimes I pose questions. My job, I feel, more is to pose questions and make them think than to offer them answers. I think almost all professors here will probably say the best thing we have here is our students. Our students are amazing, and they bring like so many different experiences to the table, their own lives, their families' lives, where they're from, what they do. So that's what is so enriching. In other schools, you might find a much more like homogeneous population. You know, in private universities, you're definitely going to have a different kind of class structure, much less diverse in terms of race, ethnicity, or anything. So I think what it makes Baruch so unique, you get this group of people that are very different and bring completely different things to the table, and that's what it makes it so enriching. And I have students so talented that are doing many different things. You know, one student of mine, Makeda, is like a social media celebrity, and she produces content. So she's been telling me because she had this camera that she would bring to class, and I'm like, oh, are you taking photography or multimedia course? She's like, no, I do social media. I post on social media. I'm like a content creator. Oh, that's so amazing. So then one day I needed like train students on interviewing. So I asked her if she agreed to be interviewed by the class so they could write about her. So they interviewed her. What I'm saying is what she's doing is as interesting as what I'm doing or what other students are doing, right? And it was great. Well, as a professor, I feel like what I want is for my students to be happy and to be fulfilled. And I feel like that's my mission, to help them, to guide them, to support them. And you know, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes students don't know what they want to do for a living. They still don't know what they want to do professionally. And I keep in touch with a lot of my former students. Some of them have been to my house. We become friends. I feel my relationship with my students is not only here at Baruch, not only in my classroom, but I really feel strongly about, you know, I create connections, I care about them, and I feel a lot of them are like lifelong relationships that I want to maintain because I admire them, I value them. So I feel like being a professor is much more than just teaching, right? And I really value the relationships I have with my students. And in terms of my career, you know, again, I think journalism is amazing, and I feel so lucky that I continue to do it. And every year I try to do something better and to push myself, try to do new things that I haven't done before. In a couple of years, I'm going up for tenure now, and if I get tenure, then I qualify for a sabbatical. So then in a sabbatical project, you can do something like long form. So I've done some long form audio work already, like audio documentaries. So that's probably now my next challenge is like what I'm gonna devote a year to, right? And try to think about a project that really matters, something that I can spend some time doing while on sabbatical.